Good morning. This is in response to Billy's talking points memo from Wednesday, November 19, 2014. He actually had two little memos, very short for both of them. The first one was on President Obama's immigration. The second was on Fergunson. Let's start with President Obama. Again, Billy, I love the way you presented. It was short, it was concise, and it was all wrong. So let's just go into your part. It was all wrong. So supposedly tonight Obama's going to let up to about 5 million people, 3.5 to 5 million people, allow them to stay and not fear of deportation. That would be parents of children who are currently citizens. So that means that those parents came here illegally, they bore children in the United States, those children are automatically U.S. citizens, and this protects those parents from being sent home. What he did not do is he's not going to protect the parents of dreamers, whereas someone would come to the United States as a child, 1 year, 3 year, 5 years old, their parents are illegal, those children are now considered dreamers. They could actually get sent home, but I think he's not doing that part. But their parents could also get sent home. So apparently Obama is not going to do that. Now, the thing is, you say that he's challenging the Constitution. Bullshit! It's all wrong, and you know it's wrong. You see, you know it's wrong, right? You went to Harvard, and you know it's wrong. But here's the thing, is that all presidents have done this. Eisenhower's done this, and let's just go, Reagan did it specifically for immigrants, and so did Bush 1 for immigrants. So why did they do it? Because they had a need to do it. Now let me take you back to something else that is a long, long time ago. But I do believe, and of course you said that he's going to lose in the courts. Well, of course, he probably will lose in this court, but let's go back to 1954, Brown versus Board of Education. Now I know they really didn't have any type of polling at that particular point in time, but when Brown versus Board of Education came out, I remember it was a 9-0 decision. It was a long, thought-out thing that had to do with separate but equal, that separate did not mean equal because they weren't equal. And I'm talking about education for people children in America. That the standard by then was that they were separate but equal. That black children would be educated in black schools and whites would be educated in white schools, and they would be equal, but they were not equal at all. But the point of the whole thing was that the Supreme Court made that decision. It was 1954. There wasn't any type of polling done at that time, or I don't think that there was much. But I can guarantee you that the vast majority of people in the United States would not agree with that at all. So now you have your little poll, or the NBC poll, that basically said, oh, 48% disapprove and 38% dissent approve. That's why a president is there. The president is there to make decisions. The president is there to look forward into the future and see what needs to be done now so that things can happen better in the future. And that's what this president has done. Now again, Billy, you bring up your false narrative, whatever, that all the president has to do is wait for Congress to act, and if Congress doesn't act, then he has the right to do it. He has more legal standing, blah, 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 blah. All right, so let's just say he waits to act. Well, you know, the next Congress is going to come in 2015, and they're not going to do anything because the last Congress didn't do anything. And remember, it's been said before, there's a bill right there, open and available, from the Senate, passed 68 to 32, with Republicans going over to vote for it, including John McCain. And that has a lot of compromise and protects the borders first, and no one can get citizenship for 10 years. But Boehner will not bring it to the floor of the House. All right, so let's just say it goes into 2015, and they're not going to do nothing. They're not going to do nothing because they're just going to say we got to secure the borders. They got to use it as a political toy, and of course they may want to try and do something because something's going to come up. But then they're going to go back and they find out their base is really, really strong, and their base really doesn't want anything, and they're going to have to find out another way to disenfranchise more and more voters in 2016 so they can have one last shot at the presidency. Okay, so what happens is nothing's going to happen in 2015, and then it becomes 2016. And guess what? Oh, then you're going to say, Billy, oh, don't bother doing any immigration reform. Let the next president do it. See, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. All right, but get back to all this. And again, remember, when the Senate passed that bill almost a year and a half ago, the president said, bring this bill up, pass this bill, or I'm going to do something on my own. What did Boehner do? Dog do. He didn't do dick. He didn't do shit. So, as far as I'm concerned, you know, the president's doing the right thing. Reagan has done that before him. Bush has done that before him. In your little closed-in world, you're going to have some crazy nut lawyers on there saying that, you know, he needs to be impeached, blah, blah, blah. But there's ample legal precedence for this to happen, and again, all the liberals, all the progressives are saying, go big, Barry, go big, go long. Remember, go long. Which is what I think he should do, because I think he should include the dreamers in there also. And and if Congress wants to pass a law, they can pass the Senate law tomorrow. They can pass it tonight. It's Thursday. They can pass it. They can pass it today before the president goes out there. So let them do something. And Billy, don't stand back there and say, oh, give the House some time to do something. They've had plenty of time and they haven't done dick, and you know that. So, enough of that one. Now, the next thing's on Ferguson. Ferguson is coming up pretty big. And, of course, again, Billy, you bring in, again, a terrible, terrible aspect of the whole thing. In fact, I don't even think part of that is true. Because you said that federal, state, and local officials presented stuff before the grand jury. I'm not really so sure about that. I think that was only local, because that's a local thing. Now, are the feds investigating it? Of course they're investigating it. But in terms of what is actually presented before the grand jury, I'm not sure if there's that. Now, I could easily be wrong, so we'll hold my breath on that. But we also know that the district attorney in that particular area, a white guy whose father was killed by a black man when his father was a police officer in the early 1960s, and also had a situation like this, had a situation where two unarmed black men were killed in a car by police officers. The car wasn't moving. The police officer said the car was coming at him, and they blew him away with like 22 bullets or something. All right, they didn't get indicted. Nothing. All right, so we don't have, that guy does not have a good track record, and he's not presenting the case to the grand jury in terms of he's bringing it up there to say that this is the reason you need to indict. He's just throwing all the facts in and letting the grand jury make their own decision. So, it's very hard to make a decision when no one's steering you in a particular direction. And the grand jury, they're not legal people. They're just getting all this stuff. All right, and again, you start talking about all this leaking. What are you talking about? To make Wilson in a bad light? All the stuff that's been leaking has been leaking like a sieve, has been from the police force in terms of Michael Brown and how bad a person he was. So don't pull that BS on me. And I'm going to go into just another thing that this is very, very disconcerting to me. I know that. Chris Hayes, I had some guy on the KKK on the other night, and that guy talked about agitators. Well, Billy, you talk about agitators all the time too, but he talked about agitators, and he talked about protecting and the rule of law and protecting the police and all this other stuff. And there's been a lot more guns that have been sold in Ferguson lately. I would assume that most of those are being bought by white people. And I just hope that if there is any commotion that goes on out there, that white people will not use that as an excuse to kill black people. Because that's sort of what I see coming. That's what I'm feeling. I hope that's not the case. I really, really do hope that that's not the case. But let's get back to Billy and the thing. So if the grand jury doesn't indict, it's not because they needed to be led by a prosecutor who told them what was going on, and this is why you need to indict. They have to look through this stuff, and of course, the way the laws are written, and especially the way they're written, I believe in either Ferguson, the St. Louis County, state of Missouri, or whatever, basically gives an officer almost execution rights. Because if they say something happened and that they were in fear for their life, that they can kill somebody, even though I believe Michael Brown was 120 feet away when the last shots were fired. But so. And that was the same thing with Trayvon Martin. The jury had to go with what the law was, and the law basically said, hey, if a little fat boy right there, Zimmerman, thinks this guy is about to kill him because they got into a confrontation, which basically Zimmerman started, hey, he's got a right to kill him. All right, so that's sort of what I see what's going on. Again, the way the law is written, the way it is expounded, that police officers have almost execution rights in the United States, which I don't agree with. But if you don't have a prosecutor who's willing to prosecute, is just going to sit on the sidelines and say, oh, I'm just going to give the grand jury all the evidence and let them figure it out for themselves. there's a high probability that nothing will happen. And again, I certainly hope that there's no violence, and some type of justice must be done for someone like Michael Brown. I have a pretty good idea of what actually happened. I know, Billy, you said that we really don't know what happened, but yes, we do know what happened. We do know a lot of the things that happened. We do know the number of bullets that were shot. We do know the time that they were shot. We do know that the confrontation lasted only 90 seconds. We pretty well assured that Wilson tried to grab Brown and pull him inside the thing, and he broke away. And that, so a lot of things happened very, very quickly. Again, I'm concerned that there's going to be violence. I certainly hope that there isn't going to be any violence. And I do not necessarily think that whatever if the grand jury decides not to indict at all, I understand that. I can agree with that, because that is the way the laws are written right now in terms of giving police absolute execution rights, and that is what is really a shame, is what is really, really wrong with that whole thing.